Hey, welcome back to my workshop. It's a new year, new project. So before I start, I'm just going to show you a little bit about what I've been working on. So this is a 3D printed file of the Assassin's Creed Hidden Blade, or Yves wood. It works fantastically. So this is what I'm going to be basing my fully functional version on. I think my plan for now is going to be to just forge the actual blade itself out of metal, and maybe one or two of the internal parts, because the outside casing does not need to be metal. That just makes it a little complicated. I don't have access to a CNC machine. So first, before I start that's going to be the next episode. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the process, the trials I went through, and what it actually took to get from 3D printed parts to this. So I hope you'll stick around, hit the like and subscribe button, leave any comments down below, and let's get started. Alright, so before I get started with the actual knife that I've got completed, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring you just through a little bit of what it took to get to this point. So this box here is not even close to all the different prototypes that I've tried. There are dozens of files, of 3D files of hidden blades all over the internet, all over Thingiverse, all over printables, Makerworld, everywhere. But wouldn't you know it, most of them just don't work. So, what I'm going to start first is I'm going to bring out the one that actually does work, put it to the side here, and then we're just going to go a little bit over these other ones, what did work, what didn't work, and what I'm going from. So, this one here is actually one of the first ones that I tried. It was the one that I got the closest to working. Unfortunately, as you can see, it's disassembled because it just didn't quite work. This one has a horrible flaw of every single one of these parts here requires a lock, right? Makes the knife stay in, stops it from coming out. Makes sense, right? So you have these little tiny little locks right here. Goes into a little hole, and then an elastic and a spring pinches this together so that it can't move out. Perfectly simple, right? The issue with that is that those elastics, those little springs that were supposed to hold it in place, don't work. They are incredibly finicky. They don't stick in place, and they constantly slip out. Would not work for translation into a steel model. Same thing with this knife here. So this knife has right here in these little sides here have a little, I guess, little flaps right here is on one side here. It's supposed to keep this extended so that it can't just go in and out. I don't have the tools to make this out of metal. I can do blacksmithing stuff. I can't do that. So this is a no-go as well. And that goes with the rest of the parts that go along with that one. So this thing, it uses a little gear mechanism that was connected to just a plate and a switch. Let me see if I can find those right here. Yep. So it would just turn a gear, move the switch over, the spring would push it forward, would catch, it would extend, and then it would break that lock right at the end of it and slam it out and then back in. It was able to extend, wasn't able to retract. Not ideal for, attempting to make a functioning hidden blade. Now, next one I tried, this fun little one. So this is a little bit more robust. It's got actual locks that are a lot thicker. They're activated using a spring and this little mechanism here. So, as you can see, there's a lock right here. It prevents the knife from going back in. Let me just extend that, show you. So right here, lock, prevents it from coming back in. Obviously it's not supposed to slip out like that because there's nothing holding in place, but it would, you know, the spring fell out. So it would go in place, lock, and prevent it from coming back in. That's fine, that worked. The issue was when it came to everything else. So this used a, let's see if I can find it here, a little lever connected to a spring right here. Pretty little ingenious design. Let's see if I can just put it together halfway, just so I can show you what's been going on. So you had this little spring connected to this little lever here, and then you had these two pieces of gear. This little one right here is connected to this plate down here. So this little lever is what makes this go forward and backwards. As you can notice, there's not a lot of movement there, which kind of makes it a little bit harder to work. So you need to have a stronger spring. So you've got, there's a little gear here. Let's see if we can find it among all the parts. I don't know if I can. Either way, there's a little gear here. So when you pull this, it pulls one of these, right? So it pulls this one here, making this one go up, this one goes down at the same time, and gets reset, and then it makes the blade extend, and then you let go of it, and it goes down, and then the next time you do it, it goes the same way, and then that makes the blade retract. The only problem with this one is everything is too flimsy. Everything is way too flimsy and too complicated to make out of metal. If I had a CNC machine or a mill or access to a metal 3D printer, perfectly fine. That would all be stuff I could do. But I don't, so I can't. And then there is this one. This one, I can't remember exactly where those other ones are from. Those designs, they didn't work very well, so I'm not going to spend too much time on them. Anyways, this design here was from Crash Makerspace, an awesome YouTuber, guy who actually, one of the reasons that I started doing this, I got inspired by some of the work he was doing, and started my channel because of that. So anyway, this one is really neat. Very complex mechanism, but I could tell just from after printing it and looking at looking at the parts and how it works that this would not work. It would not work to be made out of metal. It will work just to be like a plastic hidden blade. Absolutely would. Like, these locks are incredibly robust down here. I absolutely love that. That's fantastic. That would, like, even a metal blade would be stopped with these locks, like these plastic locks. So this would be perfect. It would not come out. They're strong enough that they can survive some hitting into by the metal. This would be fine. The only issue is when it comes to the actual mechanism. I'm not going to bother going through how it all works. Crash Makerspace has a great video on his entire design philosophy, how he made these and everything like that. You can look at it over on his YouTube. I'm not going to spend too much time going over that. I am going to keep this and work on it in the future because it is really neat. It just won't work for my purposes right now. And then the second to last design, again, this is from Crash Makerspace. This one is super neat. It uses compliant mechanisms and the flexibility of plastic itself to make the blades lock, come in and out, and everything like that is incredibly thin. It is reliable as well to use as a plastic like prop. So this here would be fantastic if that's what I was doing, but I'm not. So, as you can tell, this would obviously not work. It works for plastic, it wouldn't work for metal. A lot of the locks are based on using this, there's a little tab right here. It pushes into the actual locks and keeps it from sliding out, everything like that. Again, super cool, super fancy, really strong for plastic, but not what I'm working on. Yeah. So now we'll go with the actual one that does work. And why I think this one will be able to be turned into a metal blade fairly easily. So I'll just show it off one more time. Pull it out, goes out, right? Pull it back in, goes back in. Put it on your hand, comes out, goes back in, right? No issues here. This is the only design, like the other two, the Crash Makerspace ones, those ones work. I'm just not, they're just not going to work for my purposes. But out of all of the other ones that I've tried that could have worked, this is the only one that was actually repeatable. It was actually reliable. There were a couple of issues in the printing and assembling that I needed to figure out. But once that was done, everything just worked. So, the spring right here, this is what actually launches the hidden blade. You can see here, I stretch this and disengage this lock. I don't actually want to do it all that hard because it will hurt if I slam myself. Yeah, here. Disengage the lock, it does that, right? And then you go the other way, sends it back. Perfect, fine. So the only things that have elastics on this one is these little lock return mechanisms, This doesn't need to be made out of metal. These locks right here are strong enough, they are thick enough that it should be able to survive a metal blade hitting it. Another thing here, this spring, I can beef this spring up with a stronger spring that should be able to really easily launch the blade out if it's made out of metal. Because it sends it out with quite a bit of force right now. A metal blade will be heavier, but it should still be able to send it out. Even if it is this thickness, should still be able to come out fairly easily, especially with that with an upgraded spring if I need it. So that's one piece about why this one will actually work for a metal blade. Another piece here. These little nubs actually get a little finicky, but another thing here. So this plastic plate that is what actually disengages the locks and allows them to return, and also spreads out the plastic, the spring at the same time and launches it forward. I screwed up a little bit there. That's not a big deal though. Let's send it back in. So, blade is locked. You can see the elastic just pulls it into place to hold it so that this doesn't go any further, but it doesn't work properly without the lid on because everything can just fly around. So the second reason that this, I believe, will work is this catch plate right here is super simple, super thin. This could be easily be made out of metal. I'm not like 100%. Will it actually create any benefit to have it made out of metal? I don't think so. Not in the slightest. So going from there, we have a little cover. Again, the case could be made out of metal. It won't add any benefit to it to be made out of metal. It will not make it work any better. It will just be made out of metal, so it'll be a little stronger. So after that, you've got this little piece right here. So this has got a little nub. You put it in here. it's got a little lock here. You turn it. I don't know if I can do this with my fingers. No, I can't do it with my fingers. All right, so you turn it. It turns a little gear here, and then it shoots out. And then when it shoots out, it sends the blade out. Now this design is, I think, the closest to what you get in the games. It's not 100% accurate, obviously. The only part here, again, that is an elastic is this little gear return mechanism. That thing, super easy to replace, right? All it does is send this back, and if it breaks, I can just open it up, put another elastic here. Again, this doesn't need to be made out of metal to make it work. At least, I don't think so. Let me just reset that. I guess we'll only find out when I actually make it. And we go from there. Yeah, so one annoying thing about these elastics, though, is you launch them and then they get lost and you have to find one of the spare ones you brought with you. That's not the right one. Here we go. These are basically just a hairband elastics. I got them from my daughter's ponytail hair kit. Don't let her know. I won't tell if you do, if you don't. So again, super easy mechanism, super simple, and as you saw earlier, incredibly reliable. So what is the next step? Well, the next step is honestly making the blade. How am I going to do that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this one alone. This is going to basically be my reference guide for seeing how stuff works and doesn't work. See, right now, I think I actually tightened this a little bit too much. It pressed on the lock a little bit. I actually think I might have screwed it up while reassembling it, and it doesn't return properly in place. So, all right, there we go. Back to normal. All right, so I'm going to print out an entirely new set of parts for this. New shell, everything. Going to be made out of either carbon fiber or nylon, PETG or PLA+. Do those add any strength to the parts? I'll be honest, I don't know. I'm not a structural materials chemist, engineer. I don't know that stuff. So I'm not gonna lie, I have no clue if those will actually make it last any longer, be any more durable. But that's what we're here for. Here to try things out, learn, find out. And then once that's done, I'm gonna make a leather vambrace so that you can connect these straps to just a leather bracer that you would have. And then that way, when you pull the string, let me just, there you go. Zoom out a little bit here so you can see better. Oh, let's zoom in. Right, so you put the leather vambrace on, right, and then you just kind of, that got in the way. Also what the leather vambrace will help prevent. All right, you just kind of, this string, I think I made it a little too long too. Yeah, so basically goes to the end here. The blade is a little short, but if you hold it out like that, perfectly long enough, right? Even like this, still long enough. So, I'm blocking it. So, again, this is just going to be to play around with. It's really fun. Something's super satisfying about just doing it. But, yeah. So, my next step is going to be printing out the other pieces in the higher strength filaments, making the blade, and then assembling it. And then the vambrace. And then we'll be done. I hope you enjoy just this little foray into how these things work. There's a couple more mechanisms that I didn't go over. One is by Sonner something. He's got a really cool design that uses a plastic spring to move the gears around so that you don't actually have to use springs. Wouldn't work for this project. Again, wouldn't be durable enough to actually survive a metal. But it is really cool. It's really well thought out. It's ingenious. If it did work, I would use it. And then there were a couple of other ones that I looked at. They, again, just had some issues. I'm not an engineer. I don't know anything about the science about why some of these things do work and don't. I just know that they do or they don't. So I should be back in just a couple of weeks with a video on how I'm making the blade. And once I figure out how to get the time lapses from my printers into a format that would actually work on my editing software, I will be able to use those for printing as well. I don't know why my printer exports the time lapses in AVI format and why the editing software can't use AVI. No clue. If you have any ideas, let me know, and then I can figure it out. But otherwise, thank you everybody for all of the interest that you've shown in the stuff I do. Thank you all for the comments, messages. I really appreciate it. I'm very new at this, and the support that people have been showing me has been incredible. If you have any ideas for any future projects, leave them in the comments, send by email, send them by message. I read everything because I can. There's not that many people leaving messages right now, but hopefully that'll change in the future. But yeah, if you have any ideas, send them to me. I'll read them, see if I can make a video out of it, see if I can actually make it. It might just be cool to discuss it and see the mechanics behind the project, even if I can't make it myself. Otherwise, thank you for joining in, and I'll see you next time.